It's like Tom, hi Frank.
Hey, hello.
Hi, Dave. Hi, Tom. Hi, Janice.
Hello. I'm here. I'm here,
She
I
was
see
here
it.
last. She was here last time too.
but nobody saw me. Hello.
Sorry, the Zoom master must have been asleep at the switch.
Okay, so
She's gonna stand by until you're all ready.
yeah.
Sounds like a plan. There'll be what, 22 minutes. You'll be fired up. Hopefully others will join.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we'll be
Oh,
fine.
okay. So what do I do now?
So here, do what I told you to
Go
do.
like that.
Custodian is
You can.
vacuuming the floor, so I'm going to mute myself. Holler if you need something.
Yeah, well. 6 weeks.
Frank, just so you know, your mic's still on. And Tom, just so you know, your camera's still on. No, but not your mic.
Yeah, I
Thanks.
know. Now my mic's on. Okay, now we're just making sure everything's right. Over and out.
Well, my wife's trying to make sure I'm right. That'll never happen. Yes, dear. Yes, dear. 3 bags full.
Frank, your wife has a lot of work ahead of her. She's going to make sure you're right.
It's called Mission Impossible.
You said it, not me.
come on. I'm just calling in.
Hi, Nancy.
Good evening, how are you?
Well, after fighting our way through some computer problems and our internet won't connect, I finally hardwired it.
Well, I'm sitting in the Searsmont Town Office lobby because I retired and we have no internet service at home.
Oh, yeah, I'm finding retirement isn't what it's cracked up to be.
No, it's,
I quit my job at the Free Press a month or so ago. Oh well, life goes on. Bear with me for a minute. See what's going on. Oh well.
uh, how's the adjustment to that? This is the first time you haven't really worked at all, has it?
Well, I got laid off from one job at age 65. Went down and signed up for Social Security and stuff, and promptly went out and got another job. And I've been doing that for 11 years. So,
Yeah.
hi, Jay.
Hey,
Jay, you with us?
I am. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear him.
Okay. Who's the pumpkin?
That's Janice.
Aha.
You couldn't tell? Who else in this crew?
Don't set me up like that, Sandy.
We were discussing unemployment and retirement.
Oh,
It has some advantages. I can only think of about one at the moment.
I always thought unemployment and retirement were the same thing.
Well, I think you're right.
You still wake up early in the morning.
I get up at 4:30 in the morning for about 15 years, and I said right then, never again. So no, I don't. I sleep in now. It's
But it took you 15 years?
He learns hard.
yeah. Well, I wore a tie for 30 years, and I said never again. So that's another thing.
Hi, Bill.
Testing, can anybody hear me?
I can hear you.
No,
Yeah,
can't hear a
good.
word.
How's Chuck doing?
Okay.
Okay.
He's, he's got Alzheimer's. He's deaf.
Oh, he does.
He has no muscle tone in his body anymore because of the cancer drugs that he's on. No cancer, but, and he's a diabetic. So he's a hot mess.
I didn't know about that. I'm sorry to hear that.
And that's one of the reasons I retired, because leaving him alone is the worst thing in the world, because they need socialization. So even with his wife. So yeah, that was one of the reasons I had to retire.
I called state rep today to see if they could intervene on behalf of my next door neighbor whose 84-year-old wife has dementia. We've been trying to get her into Woodlands for 2 months now. And she's in the mental health unit at the hospital locally. They said they'd see what they could do. All the paperwork's been filled out as far as we know. Just she's still there in the hospital. So
Good, good.
fun stuff. She doesn't recognize her husband. She came over to our house in early December. Kathy went out to walk the dog about 5 o'clock in the morning. Found Harriet down in our driveway with a broken femur. She'd come over because there's a strange man in the house.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Can you hear me?
No,
Gotcha.
No. No,
no.
thanks.
Nice background.
Thank you. That's the museum in Glasgow, Scotland.
That's where all the scotch is, you said.
That was my wife. But I do have a nice bottle of Glenlivet's.
I'm envious.
All right.
I haven't had any of that in years. Probably just as well. But I have water.
All right.
Hello,
Hi, Dick.
Hello, good evening.
can you see me?
Yes, we do.
You do?
I
Oh.
do. Oh, no. Oh, it's Janice. I thought it was Elizabeth.
Well, Tom put this up because he thought it looked like me. He drew my face on an orange.
Oh, we saw the orange Janice, but now we don't see, I just see Janice K on the
Oh,
art. There you
There
are.
you are.
There you are.
oh, brother, how am I gonna fix this now?
You're
You
fine.
are. You're fine.
You're good.
You're good.
Oh, you can see me?
Yes.
And the orange.
Oh, and the orange. Okay. Listen, I just want everyone to know, I was at the meeting I had to watch it on YouTube because I didn't get a link to the Zoom. So I watched it on YouTube, the whole thing. Just so you know, I was there.
I've had that problem too.
Am I heard?
Yes.
You're heard.
Oh, good.
Hi,
Great.
Elizabeth.
Hi, I'm using a new headphone. I want to make sure everybody could hear me.
That's Frank. Look at that. Frankly speaking,
What did he say?
he said, frankly speaking,
Speaking about what, Sandy?
Frank Terrio.
Oh,
I won't be speaking too much tonight.
are you not feeling well?
My wife convinced me that if I really loved her, I would have the coronavirus shots. I had the second one yesterday. And you know, it's like that, the flu. It
Yeah.
gives you a fever and your brain does not function. So Jay, don't pick on me tonight.
I won't. I've had the second one, and I can relate to what you're saying. So
And your shoulders ache, your back aches, and your brain is just fried. That was
I
weird.
don't want to hear this.
Well,
FAA,
I've had the first one, but I haven't had the second one yet.
oh, it doesn't hurt. The after.
FAA just passed regulation grounding commercial pilots for 48 hours after a vaccine.
Really?
At least I can believe that, Bill.
That's
Definitely.
good.
How long before you got symptoms, Frank?
Let's see, I had the shot. I was okay yesterday, and all night long, you can't go to sleep. And so then I got up in the morning, it's like, I feel like I'm dead. It was unbelievable.
Wow.
And it's like you really had the flu. You had the fever, your head is buzzing like you have a vertigo attack, and you ache all over your body. It's starting to subside a little bit now. Matter of fact, you're talking about that Glenlivet. I think that might be the cure.
Either that or Jack and Coke.
Well, you look good, Frank. You look good.
Plus, you don't need a prescription for that, Frank. So
Yeah. Frank, you make a fine looking corpse.
Yeah, yeah. My wife keeps telling me that. She's the one that talked me into having this the shot. I didn't even want it.
Ah.
Now I see.
I have 7:01, so we can convene the meeting of the Lincolnville Planning Board Wednesday, March 10th, 2021. And this meeting is being held via Zoom and can be watched live on channel 22. Am I too loud? Am I not loud enough?
you're good.
It's
Okay.
perfect.
And obviously, if you want to watch this after the fact, you can watch it on YouTube. And I did see our last meeting was actually on the town website. Unfortunately, that was not a pleasant meeting to watch over again, by the way. All right. Am I leaving anything out? Agenda, oh, yes, everybody. We need to do a roll call, I guess. If everybody want to start saying your name and you are present. Go for it, Sandy.
Sandy Delano.
Janice K. Lincolnville Center.
Scott
Jake
Harrison.
Foster, alternate.
Bill Norfleet, alternate here.
Dick Vermeulen, Lincolnville.
Carry on.
And Nancy is here too. And I'm Elizabeth Udi, if I didn't mention that for the cameras. We have on the agenda, besides minutes for December 30th, which if you guys don't mind, we'll wait till the end of the meeting so that we can let our applicants be released before we make that amendment and approval. And then we have agenda items of the Duck Trap Motel and McLaughlin's. Yes, sir. Sandy.
Can I make a motion that our alternates can participate in this?
Certainly. Of course, they can always participate, but you want them to also be able to vote.
I do.
You do.
You only need one.
And so, because Scott is not going to be able to vote on the, and there's a good, Jay, is Scott going to be able to help us out on the second agenda item? Or do we appoint someone to go for the whole evening?
Not if Scott wants to come back.
just won't leave.
There you go.
Depends on whether we approve them or not.
Ah, there's a thought.
So anybody which alternate would like to jump in? And obviously, whichever one does not want to vote tonight or does not get to vote tonight is still going to participate
Go ahead, Bill.
enthusiastically.
That-
All right, I
yeah.
appoint Bill to be a voting member this evening. Thank
For
you.
the whole meeting or until Scott comes back?
I think Scott said he's going to check out.
Okay.
Glenn
No,
Wood, I heard.
I said I was gonna stay.
Oh, okay. Scott will stay. There you go. Thank you, Bill. All right, on the Duck Trap Motel. Last week or 2 weeks ago, we went through the submission requirements, subsection 10 of section 18 in the land use ordinance. So tonight we're going to review section 18, subsections 11, 12, and 13. And then make an amendment to it, assuming we approve the commercial site plan. We will make an amendment to that to include the screened-in porch. Is that how we left it at the last meeting?
Yes.
As everyone understands it?
That's
Yeah.
correct.
Okay. And so we begin on 11. And I have cheat notes here. Okay. I didn't have a flu shot, but I'm not feeling great either. So I had the first one last week.
What's
My
in the
daughter
glass?
was tested for it today.
Pardon me?
My daughter's not feeling well, so she went and got tested for it.
Oh.
Supposed to have heard this afternoon, has not heard.
All right. Jay, am I on the right track? I just jump into 11.1, utilization of site.
That's apparently where we are. I think we've established for the record that this review is because at the request of the applicant.
Yes.
If he wants to have an approved commercial site. And the application we have in front of us is actually for the amendment under section 18 for the screened-in porch, which would be an afterthought after the review of the company of the application, or the request, I should say.
And when it comes to that point, will we be able to choose which standards we think are affected by that porch, or do we still go through them one by one?
No, we're obligated only to look at the standard relative to the amendment requested.
Okay. And how do we determine that? You still have to go through them and say, is that one
We could do that, or I'll recommend one to you.
great?
Oh, no, not that one.
All right, on 11.1, utilization of site. Actually, I have a note here that I wanted to make sure. Okay, Jay's going to be jumping in on this, I hope. Utilization of site. The plan must reflect natural capabilities of the site to support development. In general, are we a motion, I suppose, that this is an existing site and we will accept it as is? That nothing has been changed since the 2004 site plan?
I think that's a very important point to make right up front before we even start the review, that what we're looking at is an existing commercial site that's been existing and functioning as a motel for the past 20 years. As far as I know, there's been nothing that the town has dealt with as far as problems or issues or enforcement issues or anything of that nature against the property, either the previous owners or this owner. So it is what it is and has been for quite a while.
And those of you with some experience who did the Lincolnville Motel and the shop downtown and the Viking lumber can jump in with your suggestions for motions, which would be awesome. Sorry, I'm going to be struggling tonight. And we'll talk about all this at the meeting on the 24th. No words.
Since I'm a non-voting member and I'm participating tonight as an alternate. Is it appropriate that I make motions?
I don't know.
Tell me what it is and I'll make it.
There you
Yeah, I'm
go.
not really sure what the motion, I would make it, but I'm not really sure what the motion is, Elizabeth, to be.
Something to the effect that the motion that the existing site as a motel, an established motel, meets the criteria of the standard.
And which standard is that?
And that is the standard 11.1 utilization of the site, that the plan must reflect natural capabilities of the site. And of course, it has a lot more words than that.
We can also make reference in the motions to the plat plan that we have that was presented by the applicant. So if you're looking for something that reflects the natural capabilities of the site, you can refer to the existing plat plan submitted and move that it does meet that criteria.
Okay, do we have a motion, please?
I guess I'm confused. I told you was already. I thought the only thing you're going to do is see which of the general review standards are impacted by adding that on, not going through all of these to say that the site has that or it doesn't have that.
But we decided last week we would first go through all of the standards as a commercial site plan review. And then once we've approved that, accept the new application as an amendment to that site plan.
I don't think that's what Sally's letter said, but go ahead, I'll be quiet.
You guys have done this at least 4 times that I've been able to find just in the last few years. And each time was a little bit different in how you treated it. So as I said, I'm not going to be functioning great tonight because I'm very confused as to why it keeps coming up and it is not a consistent answer.
Well, since Frank brought up the subject and referenced Sally's note to us, which had to do with the, I believe it was a Lincolnville motel, not this particular application, but because it's similar, it was introduced and sent to the board for their review. But what it references is a review of a request for an approval of an existing commercial site that does not have commercial site plan approval, but there's something being requested to be done on that commercial site. And Sally's letter refers to the fact that we can review that only under the standard that applies to it, but that we don't sign the plat plan when that review is complete, because that's not approval of a commercial site plan. It's approval of that action, which authorizes the CEO to issue a permit to have that work done.
Mm-hmm. And if Scott is okay with that, what she ended up with at the Lincolnville motel, she did not end up with an approved commercial site plan. She ended up with the approval of the amendment she wanted to make. And if Scott's okay with that, we can certainly go that route.
I would rather have a commercial site plan on file at the town office because I don't want any problems going forward. I'm not planning on making any great big changes, but the screen porch is a very good change for the business. So I would like the plot plan that I had submitted signed and accepted as, yes, this is a motel, has been for years. These are the buildings. I haven't moved any, changed any, or added any. So, and then after that, I would like a permit issued to me by Frank so that I can build that screen porch so that we can check people in without having them enter our home.
So just to be clear, Scott, you've made 2 requests. One
Yes.
was to have approved commercial site plan on file in the town office. And the other is to have an amendment approved to that approved commercial site plan for the addition of a screened in porch.
Exactly. That's
And that's
perfect.
what I thought we were up to today.
Okay, just to be clear.
So the site plan that Scott has submitted has everything as it was in 2004. Scott states that nothing has been changed. Even, I think, the trees are standing. Everything's in place. And if we use that plat C1 as our guidelines, does that make it easier for you guys to?
Wasn't there an
Or
action
motions.
item for Scott to contact the DOT or whoever?
I have a copy of that letter where they've approved it.
So we did get it, okay.
Yeah.
Go forth.
Go forth. So the utilization of the site plan, 11.1A is the, must reflect the natural capabilities of the site to support development. The buildings, lots, and support facilities must be clustered in those portions of the site that have the most suitable conditions for development. Everything, again, is as is on the plat. Nothing has changed. And so a motion to approve 11.1A.
So move.
And a second, please.
I'll second it.
Thank you, Dick.
Welcome.
And all those in favor of considering 11.1A as satisfied, please raise your hand. Thank you.
It has to be roll call.
And it has to be roll call. I was going to bring that up on the 24th with Sally, but we're going to have to start doing that. So, Mr. Delano, how do you vote?
Can't count fingers in the minutes.
Sandy, how do you vote?
Yes.
Bill,
Yes.
Dick,
Yes.
and Janice.
Yes,
And I vote yes. 11.1B, environmentally sensitive areas, including but not limited to wetlands, steep slopes, floodplain plains, significant wildlife habitats, et cetera, must be maintained and preserved to the maximum extent. Scott, are you abusing any part of that property that we don't know about?
No, there's no wetlands here, no wildlife refuges here. And the contours you can see on the plot plan indicate how the water flows when it rains. So no, that doesn't apply to me.
And may I have a motion to accept 11.1B as satisfied?
So move.
Thank you. And a second?
Second.
Thank you. Sandy, how do you vote?
Yes.
And Bill?
Yes.
And Dick?
Yes.
And Janice?
yes,
And Elizabeth says yes. 11.1 is satisfied. 11.2, I'm sorry.
Elizabeth, can I make a suggestion?
Yes, please.
11.1, utilization of the site as a standard in the ordinance. 11.2, traffic and access parking as a standard. 11.10, hazardous, special, and radioactive materials as a standard. If we're reviewing this application against the standards of the ordinance, can we not take up a standard such as 11.1 and then take up the subsections of it individually and then vote on the standard as opposed to each individual numbered or lettered segment of each individual numbered standard?
Well, Jay, is that going to make it easier?
Good heavens.
yes, it is.
Yes, please. And 11.2, traffic and access and parking, Jay, and that might be what you're trying to say. When you guys did the Lincolnville Motel, you suggested just accepting that as one standard. Is that what you're saying
My point
now?
is that the standard for the ordinance is 11.2. That's
Right.
traffic, access, and parking. A is access, B is driveways, number 2 is points of access, number 3 is grade. That all has to do with 11.2, traffic, access, and parking. If we cover the items that are under that standard and agree that those have all been met and then vote on the standard itself, it's going to shorten this meeting by about an hour and a half.
Great.
That seems reasonable.
All right. Based on the plat that Scott has submitted, do we have a motion that 11.2, traffic, access, and parking, the criteria has been met for this standard?
So move.
Second,
Second.
please. Sandy, how do you vote?
Yes.
Bill, how do you vote?
Yes.
Janice, how do you vote?
Yes.
And Dick, how do you vote, please?
Yes.
And Elizabeth votes yes. We move on to 11.3, which is stormwater management. Adequate provisions must be made for the collection and disposal of all stormwater that runs off proposed street. Once again, I think C1 or the plat that he has submitted satisfies our need to know what's going on in relation to 11.3. May I have a motion that 11.3 has been met?
So moved.
Yes,
Yeah,
sir.
I think we're going to have to go to the standard, which is stormwater management, and touch on the items that are in it for the record, that the application is in compliance. I just don't think we vote on each individual one as we go down the list. We only vote on the standard itself, which is 11.3 stormwater management.
Okay. And so what do we,
So
is that
do
what we just had a motion for?
Well, do we agree to the extent possible, the plan must retain stormwater on the natural features of the site? If there's nobody against that, then you go to number 2, then you go to number 3, then you go to number 4. And at the
Okay,
end of that, we say, we've discussed this for the record. Our findings of facts are that the application has been met, and we vote on 11.3, which is stormwater management.
okay. And we're just agreeing, not voting on each of those.
So,
Can I make a motion on stormwater management that all has been met? Is there any discussion? If not, can I make that motion?
We're all comfortable that they've all been met, yes.
I'm comfortable. I vote yes.
Is there any more discussion on 11.3? Is everyone comfortable that these have been met?
Yes.
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 I have a yes from Janice, a yes from Bill, a yes from Dick, a yes from Sandy, and I say yes. On 11.4, erosion control. All building, site, and roadway designs and layouts must harmonize with the existing topography and conserve desirable natural surroundings at the fullest extent possible. Parking lots on slope sites must be terraced. I don't think all your parking lots are in place, so everything is as exists now. And soil erosion, sedimentation of water courses and water bodies must be minimized. I don't think that's applicable anyway. Does everyone feel comfortable that 11.4 is satisfied?
Make a motion, 11.4 has been satisfied.
I second the motion.
And a vote from Sandy, please.
Yes.
And Bill,
yes.
Dick,
Yes.
Janice,
Yes.
and Elizabeth says yes. Water supply provisions, 11.5. Development shall be served by adequate supply of water for domestic and fire protection. I'm sorry. I think because it's an existing site, we know it's adequate supply of water for domestic. How about fire protection, Scott?
Yes, there's fire extinguishers all over the place. And there's a water access for,
For the truck?
for the truck, whatever.
Well,
Always has been.
a point to be made there is all Lincolnville fire trucks that respond to a fire are tankers.
Yeah.
So they all bring water
They
to
all
the
bring their
fire
own.
and go and replenish that if necessary. So there may be a water pond or fire pond near you somewhere. I'm not quite sure. I think it's just up on,
There's
yeah,
there's
but,
one right out back.
right. But the fact that the trucks bring water with them to responding to any fire would meet that standard
Great.
Yeah.
in terms of fire protection.
Okay.
We would make a motion that the standards for 11.5 have been satisfied.
I second the motion.
Okay. And Sandy, how do you vote?
Yes.
And Bill, how do you vote?
Yes.
And Dick, how do you vote?
Yes.
And Janice?
Yes.
And Elizabeth, yes. 11.6 sewage wastewater disposal. The development shall provide a method of disposing of sewage wastewater that is in compliance with the state plumbing code. Now, I don't know if that's on your plat plan, but I assume that
All the leach
Frank
fields
can
are
attest to this.
on-
Pardon me?
All the leach fields and tanks are shown on the plan.
Okay.
We have information from the plumbing inspector that those are all up to standard for the size and utilization of the motel.
Have not seen the plans.
We've actually been advised that our tanks and leach fields are a lot larger than we need.
Advised by who, please?
The interstate septic,
Yeah, interstate septic's the one that,
they're the ones that we have come and pump.
yeah.
Okay. Do we have a motion that you feel 11.6 has been satisfied?
So move.
And a second?
I second that.
All right. And Sandy, how do you vote?
Yes.
And Bill?
Yes.
And Dick?
Yes.
And Janice?
Yes.
And Elizabeth says yes. 11.7 utilities. I believe all this is clear on the plat. So if I might have a motion about the development shall provide with electrical, telephone, and telecommunication service adequate to meet the anticipated use of the project.
So moved.
And second, please.
I second that.
And Sandy, how do you vote?
Yes.
And Bill,
Yes.
Dick,
Yes.
Janice,
Yes.
and Elizabeth, yes. 11.8 natural features. The landscape must be preserved in its natural state insofar as practical by minimizing tree removal, disturbance, and compaction of soil. Extensive grading and filling must be avoided as far as possible. Again, I think that's all
This is a
Been met
20-year-old
for-
existing site.
as an existing site, yes. So if we might have a motion, please.
So moved.
Second,
I second that.
and Sandy, a vote?
Yes.
Dick, I'm sorry, Bill,
Yes.
Dick?
Yes.
And Janice,
Yes.
and Elizabeth, yes. Groundwater protection, the proposed site development and use must not adversely impact either the quality or the quantity of groundwater available to abutting properties. Obviously, as an existing site and no complaints that we know of.
I move the groundwater protection 11 point down meets the requirements.
I second that.
And Sandy, a vote?
Yes.
Bill,
Yes.
Dick,
Yes.
Janice,
Yes.
and Elizabeth, yes. Do we need to go over, Jay, the specifics of A and 1, 2, and 3? Are we going to call that all one? Big groundwater protection, yes.
Didn't we just vote on that?
Yes, we did.
Then the assumption is made up front that everybody looked at that and had no question about any of the items in there.
Great, because I know they all did their homework.
You could make a point that if you look at the plat plan and you see the contour lines, they all lead down to the lower right-hand corner.
Mhm.
And if you know that property, the lower right-hand corner leads down Route 1 to Duck Trap. So you're really not going to affect any abutting properties or their groundwater or cause any harm to any abutters or any abutting properties with the way the contours are on this plat plan.
Quick question. What, this is for Scott, I guess. Didn't you apply for approval of this property or somebody else did a ways back?
Yes.
I think somebody else, that was Rick and Elaine that applied for it and, excuse me. For some reason, they pulled out before the plan was approved. And I'm not sure of why that is, but
My understanding was because of the DOTs wanting to widen the driveway.
I think it may have been that, but we have, like Frank has a letter from DOT that we are grandfathered, and we do have permission to have our exit on Highway 1 and our entrance on Whitney Road.
Well, where I was
And
headed
yeah.
with it is if this had been reviewed and everything had been approved except for that one item, what are we going through this exercise for? But just a comment.
Because nobody signed the plot plan.
Okay. I got you.
We are at 11.10, hazardous, special, and radioactive materials. Not sure that any of that applies. Does it, Scott?
No, I'm not building any hydrogen bombs here.
Does anybody else have any comments or objections to approving 11.10 as being satisfied?
I move that 11.10 has been satisfied.
I second the motion.
And a vote from Sandy, please?
Yes.
And Bill?
Yes.
And Dick?
Yeah.
And Janice?
Yes.
And Elizabeth, yes. 11.11 shoreland relationship. Develop must not adversely affect the water quality or shoreline of the adjacent water body. It's not applicable. I don't think you're in the,
Yeah.
technically in shoreland.
Agreed.
On 11.2 solid waste management. You're taking your own stuff to the transfer station, is that right?
Yep.
Adequate disposal of solid waste now. So a motion that solid waste management is being satisfied and meets the criteria of the standard.
So moved.
I'll second that.
And a vote from Sandy
Yes.
and Bill,
Yes.
Dick,
Yes.
Janice,
Yes.
and Elizabeth, yes. 11.13 historic and archaeological resources. As I recall from the 2004, there is nothing there that we need to be concerned with. I'm sorry, Frank, were you going to say something?
No.
No, okay.
I make a motion 11.13 is satisfied.
I'll second his motion.
Excuse me, but actually isn't what you want to do say it doesn't apply?
I think in that case, yes.
Whatever.
So I move that we find that section
11.13.
11.13 is not applicable.
What, is that the solid waste management?
No, it's historic and archaeological
No, it's historic.
resources.
Oh, excuse me.
No problem. So we need a second on that, please.
Second.
If it's not applicable, do we have to even vote on it?
I think we have to make note of it.
Note
Jay?
is made.
Do we have to vote on that if it's NA?
You have to vote on the fact that it's not applicable.
Okay.
So
So,
Bill's
Sandy, how do you
motion is
vote?
that it's not applicable, and I would second that.
And you vote,
Yes.
and Bill,
Yes.
did you say yes, Dick?
I'll say it now.
Okay. Janice?
Yes.
And Elizabeth says yes, not applicable. 11.14 floodplain management, and I'm sorry, I didn't double check. Was that in a floodplain? I wouldn't think
No.
so.
No.
So can we also call that one not pertinent?
Yep.
Not
I
in
can't
the,
seem to say that word, applicable.
it's not in the floodplain.
It's not in a floodplain. So
Not applicable. 11.14 is not applicable.
and we all agree, so a vote, Sandy,
Yes.
Bill,
Yes.
Dick,
Yes.
Janice,
Yes.
and Elizabeth, yes. 11.15, general fire protection provisions. I don't know how that's terribly different from the other one, but
You want to be careful with this one.
okay.
It's a motel.
I have fire extinguishers exactly where the fire department came out and told me I needed to put them. And they've been checked every year. So,
Very good.
You have a fire protection plan is what you're saying.
yes,
Okay. And you have nothing in the entrances that would obstruct the entrance of a fire truck to
No.
function in the property in the event of a fire?
No, there's no obstruction.
And you have nothing that's locked up preventing the fire trucks from gaining access to the property?
Nope, not a thing.
And so E is not applicable because there's no construction. Definitions for fire code terms are on file with the code enforcement officer. Do we know F to be true?
Oh,
Oh, definitions for fire code terms are on file. That
Just a
doesn't mean
glossary.
that Scott has to have something on file. I apologize. So do we agree that general fire protection provisions have been met?
I would make that motion.
I would second that.
And Sandy, a vote, please?
Yes.
And Bill?
Yes.
And Dick?
Yes.
Janice?
Yes.
Elizabeth says yes. Section 12, good neighbor standards. Exterior lighting. Will you be adding any additional lighting to the screened porch?
No. No additional lighting is being added, except for, yeah, there is one on the inside of the screen porch.
Okay,
That's it. No exterior lighting at all.
okay.
Well, how can they see to come up to the door in the evening then?
Car headlights.
We already have lighting on the grounds,
Outside.
on the outside, this existing lighting that's been here for years.
Oh, okay.
Does somebody have a TV or a radio on in the background?
Yeah.
Yes, they do.
Yes, we all might. I'll check mine. I don't think it's on, but I'll check it.
I turned my scanner down a minute ago.
Thank you,
That better,
somebody.
Jay?
Yeah, it is better.
I don't, okay.
I'm sorry, so on exterior lighting, are we confident that A through D is satisfied?
I would make that motion.
I'll second that.
And a vote, please.
Yes, yes,
Yes for Sandy. Bill,
Yes.
Dick,
Yes.
and Janice.
Yes.
So 12.1
And
is
Elizabeth?
satisfied. Yes.
And Elizabeth?
And
Yeah.
Elizabeth, yes, I'm sorry. 12.2 buffering. This is visual buffering. The plat shows the vegetation and other aspects of the grounds as they are now, and nothing is going to change.
Nope, nothing is going to change.
and I would
So-
make a motion that 12.2 is satisfied.
I'll
Okay.
second that.
And a vote from Sandy.
Yes,
Bill,
Yes.
Dick,
Yes.
and Janice,
Yes.
and Elizabeth, yes. 12.3 noise. When you have your first contra dance on your new screened-in porch, are you going to have a band?
Just me and a guitar.
There you go.
and the Glenlivet. I would make a motion that
Yeah.
that meets the existing standards. Meet
Yes,
the
I-
criteria.
I second that.
And these construction activities are between the hours of 9 PM and 7 AM are not going to happen, correct?
No.
Okay.
No.
I'm sorry, Sandy, how do you vote?
Yes,
And Bill,
Yes.
Dick,
Yes.
and Janice,
Yes.
and Elizabeth, yes. 12.4 storage of materials. Nothing's changing there.
No.
Everything should be as is on the plat plan.
Yep.
And so, since that's still part of 12. Do we need to vote on that one separately?
no,
Yes, we do.
You
All right, a motion, 12.4,
meet standards.
and a second.
I'll second that.
And
Yes.
Sandy, how do you vote?
Yes,
Bill,
Yes.
Dick,
Yes.
and Janice,
Yes.
and Elizabeth, yes. Design standards. Have I seen in the past where design standards were kind of lumped into one section 13 and not going through each individual?
Well, the portion on site considerations, whether it meets the comprehensive plan, the building orientation, the building scale, the parking lot placement, should at least be covered, even if it's an existing site. You get to view protection, ridgeline protection, hillside development, shoreline development. Those can be bundled up because they're not applicable.
Okay.
I like it.
So landscaping 13.1 is as shown on the plat.
Yes.
Is, accept that as being satisfied.
so moved.
So you want us to, I'm sorry, I thought we were still, okay, never mind. Would you please repeat that, Elizabeth? What are,
13.1 landscaping is satisfied because it's all shown on the plat as an existing, nothing's going to change.
and that's under design standards?
Correct. And can we, roadside and parking lot buffers, can we just lump and vote on 13.1, 13.2, and 13.3 all together?
I'm not sure why you could do that when you didn't do that on the previous sections.
Okay,
I mean,
so
I-
13.1. Did we have
this
a
is like a
motion?
multiple list document, and
Mhm.
and it looks like we can bundle the sections, and it looks like we're saying that the subsections need to be voted on individually.
Okay,
Mm.
Is that right, Jay? Can we not bundle?
The standard that you're reviewing is 13.1 landscaping. So we review what the ordinance says A and B about landscaping, and if you agree that it meets that, you vote on 13.1 landscaping. That's the standard. Then you move to 13.2 and 13.3. If you get to an area like 13.6 through 13.9, where none of those items are applicable to this application, then you can bundle those up and say they're all applicable.
I see.
so did we have a motion on 13.1?
We did.
Yes.
Okay, and a second?
I second.
And Sandy, a vote on 13.1 landscaping.
Yes,
Who
And
seconded
Bill.
it?
I'm
Yes.
sorry,
Bill
Bill
seconded it?
seconded it.
Okay,
Bill seconded it.
thank you.
Bill's vote.
He said yes.
Okay, Dick
Yes.
and Janice
Yes.
and Elizabeth, yes. 13.2 business signs. Scott does have one sign. It's shown on the plat, and he's not putting up any new signs or changing
Nope.
anything else.
It's in compliance with the town sign ordinance.
Yes, it is. He had a Rickety Lane had a permit for it, so it's been there since Rickety Lane.
Make a motion 13.2 is satisfied.
I second the motion.
And Sandy's vote,
Yes,
Bill's vote,
Yes.
Jick
Yes.
and Janice.
Yes.
And Elizabeth, yes. 13.3 is roadside and parking lot buffers. A vegetated buffer strip must be established and maintained along the edge of the road right of way.
That exists and it's on the platform.
Yeah. It's all on the plat plan as is and has been for 17 years. Sandy, jump in with that motion.
make a motion 13.2.
Oh, I can second it. I second it.
Meets the standards.
And a vote from Sandy.
Yes,
Bill,
Yes.
Dick,
Yes.
Janice,
Yes.
and Elizabeth, yes. 13.4 site considerations. So these are setback and alignment, building orientation, building scale, and parking lot placement. All of these are clearly expressed on C1. And we can bundle all that as one approval if we agree.
I agree.
I'd make a motion 13.4 is existing standards, meet standards.
I second his motion.
Okay, Sandy,
Yes,
Bill,
Yes.
Dick,
Yes.
Janice,
Yes.
Elizabeth is yes. To 13.4, site considerations. 13.5, canopies and drive-through facilities. There is no canopy and no drive-through facilities, so we'll, that is not applicable. 13.6, view protection does not apply. 13.7, ridge line protection does not apply. Hillside development does not apply, and it's not a shoreland development. Are we all in agreement?
we are.
Yes.
So move.
I second it.
Andy,
Yes,
Bill,
Yes.
Dick,
Yes.
and Janice.
Yes.
And I say yes. And who's missing? Nancy popped out. Okay. And then 14, post-approval activities. We don't go there.
thank you.
So now do we have one motion that approves the commercial site plan? Or is it done now that we've gone through each standard?
I would make a motion that the site plan as proposed meets all the standards and we approve it.
I'll second that motion.
Jay, did you have a comment?
Oh,
Okay. Vote from Sandy, please.
Yes,
And Bill,
Yes.
and Dick,
Yes.
and Janice.
Yes.
Elizabeth says yes. Scott, you have a commercial site plan of record.
go get
And
the
Elizabeth, you need to sign the application on the back.
Okay.
Do we have an application?
Yes, you do.
Okay.
And the plat plans have to be signed as well.
Right. And did we get, no, we're not going to, well, let's see, how does that work? We don't now have to worry about the clean site plan because we did not review this as an as-is. We made it official. Is that right, Frank? So the site plans that Scott has
Yeah.
submitted,
You're
Are the ones
approving
that
it, you're approving, your only thing you're approving is the new plat plan with the change. You're not
Okay.
approving the original one.
right? So now we're going to talk about the amendment, which is a request for request for a permit to build the screened porch. So we approve the amendment prior to the permits. What's my word? Conveyance. Is
Well,
that correct?
The reason I asked the question about do we have an application, because the only application I got in my package was from Scott for 12 Whitney Road, map 17, lot 7, for a screen porch or an office and reservation building. We have that application. It was in our packages. If you
Correct.
take that application and review it under Article 18, which is amendments to approved commercial site plans, then we can approve the application.
Mhm.
Wait a minute, whoa. It is not an approved commercial site plan until you review the amendment with it.
Say that again.
You did not approve the existing site plan. You
Yes.
just documented what's in it. You did not approve. How can you approve it?
I'm not
It
understanding.
exists.
Understand.
I thought that's what we just did.
You're the only, the thing that's going to be signed off by the board is when you make an amendment to that which you have just documented. You did not approve the existing site plan. You did not approve it. How could you?
No, I thought we approved a new site plan for,
Right, right on,
and-
Bill. If you guys were reviewing this to review the new amendment to what that plan is, then you can sign the plat plan. And as I heard you speaking, you actually reviewed the amendment as you were also documenting what was there.
Really?
Really.
So
Is
You're talking
everybody in
about the
agreement with that?
Sally's in agreement with it, Jay.
No, she's not. That's not what she said. Is everybody on the board in agreement with what Frank just said?
I don't think I am.
I don't understand really what he said. He's saying that we have to add this amendment to what we just approved and then approve it in general.
I thought we just did the general commercial site plan review.
We did, but what Frank is saying, I think, is that the amendment has to go with it.
Yes, right
That's-
on.
Okay, well, then I agree with that. I
I
thought that the plan for this evening was to approve a new site plan and then to consider an amendment to that plan, which
Right,
is the
that's what
screened in.
Bill,
Yes, I thought that too.
you can't sign off on the plat plan that does not have the change on it.
Right, right. So
You
let's do that.
cannot do that.
Let's do that.
What you
then.
can sign off, is the amendment to what you have reviewed.
Let's do it.
Yeah. Do we make
You've
a
already,
motion?
you've
Can we
already
make a
reviewed the
motion?
amendment.
So can we make an amendment? I mean, make a motion to add the amendment to the site plan that we just approved?
Or
That's what you'll be signing. It's the plat plan with the change on it, with the fog blank lines on it right now. That's what you're gonna sign tonight.
That's an
Right.
approved commercial site plan.
So Frank, are we done then?
Yes.
So Franco, just to help me understand what's going on, is what has happened here that is what you're saying is that the new site plan and its amendment the amendment has already been incorporated in the new site plan, and then by approving that new site plan, we're done.
You have a documented site plan that's legal.
So Scott's goal will be fulfilled by this. So Scott,
Absolutely.
okay, so Scott's going to end up with a new approved plan, and as part of that plan, there is an amendment for the screen porch.
Yeah, exactly. If I can add one thing, I hope doesn't confuse things. Understand, as you went through all of these different review standards, even if one of those standards was not satisfied, you cannot make them change it. You do not vote that, yes, it's there as according to the standard, just you're documenting that if in your opinion it was there, that's fine. But you're not approving it. You're documenting. Then when you review the amendment, which is a change, and you're looking at that specific thing, what impact it has, that's the plat plan you're gonna sign. So you're done.
May I make the point?
I get it.
Commercial site plan that we just reviewed under the standards of the ordinance does not have a screened-in porch on it because it doesn't exist yet.
It doesn't have to exist in order for plans for it to
It has to be approved.
You're approving the plan, so he can do it.
That's,
He can't
yes,
do it until.
So he can do it.
that's a
yeah.
true statement. The fact that he now has a commercial site plan approved by the planning board means he can apply for a building permit to you for a screened-in porch
Yes.
once the
Right.
amendment is approved.
Now we're all in sync.
Beautiful.
Okay.
Yes.
Does that
And-
mean
and-
all I have to do is come to Frank for a building permit now?
Well, we
Yes.
have to approve the amendment to the approved commercial site plan first, which we have an application for.
Okay,
And that's under our Article 18, which means we only have to look at the standards and the ordinance which apply to the application, which is a screened-in porch.
okay.
And do you think you guys, this is a question, do you think you guys did that as you went through the whole thing and you discussed the porch?
No, because it's not on the plan. It's not built yet.
We did not discuss.
It's not on the plan.
Well,
Frank, I think that everyone thinks that we had to approve the commercial site plan first, and then we were going to go to the amendment to add to the commercial site plan. That's what I think everyone thought.
That's
okay,
it.
and that's not the case. You're not approving, you're just documenting. You did a good job of going through identifying what was there. Okay, if something wasn't, for example, let's say the landscaping was not there. You cannot make them go back and change and improve the landscaping. So you're not voting on it that's you're approving it. You're documenting that you're accepting that it's there.
Okay, so we now are wanting to document that the plan for the screened-in porch is there.
Yes, what Jay is requesting is that the board look now at the amendment only and say, are there any review items that pertain to it? And then you vote on it. You got it.
Do it.
And that's what we have an application for.
Yes.
Okay, so can we make a motion, Frank, to accept the approved site plan with the amendment to the screened-in porch and vote on it?
Yes.
Can
That's
we
up
do
to the
that?
board.
The first thing you have to do is determine which standard applies to the application. The application is for a screened porch and an office reservation building. So you go through all of the standards and look at them and see which one applies to that application.
Yep.
I would say that in looking through that, the only thing I would see that applies to it would be 13.5 or 13.1, which includes the site considerations, the building generation orientation, the building scale, and the parking lot is not involved in that. If you review those things under 13.1 against the screened-in porch and agree that those standards are met, that's the only standard you have to look at. Going
Well,
through
we've already approved 13.1 though.
no, that-
As a whole,
You
That was for the
approved it
commercial
for the
site plan.
commercial site plan.
right.
Now you got to approve it for the screened-in porch. Is that correct, Jay?
yes,
That would be my take on it.
And for how, well, we kind of mentioned it when we were going over the other, which was maybe inappropriate, but, for lighting and noise, but that's not going to be affected. We've already discussed that. I do have to ask a question. This is just me being curious. Scott, when you penciled in a deck on the plat, a deck that you said is existing,
Yeah.
do
The
you
deck,
feel that the building as it is shown on the plat already included that
no,
deck?
it didn't. It didn't include that deck.
So
The old,
is there a step
print-
up to the deck?
yeah,
So if it didn't include the deck, there were stairs going up to the door at some point?
I have no idea.
Okay,
I'm showing it the way it is, the way it was when I got it. And all I want to do is make it safe for people to check in without coming in our home.
Mhm.
So that includes a screened-in porch with a roof over it. And because I have to have a roof, Frank says I have to have a permit.
Yeah.
So that's why I wanted the commercial site plan, because I don't want these problems going forward.
okay. So Jay, you're saying that we don't have to go item by item. We can accept.
no. This is section 18,
Mhm.
which is on page 72. This is an amendment to an approved plan. We just approved the plan.
Correct.
We have an application from Scott for an amendment to that approved plan. And when we look at this and review the application, 18 says the board scope of review should be limited to those portions of the plan which are proposed to be changed. He's asking to screen in an existing porch which was on the approved plan. That's all we review,
Okay.
Right.
is that request. And the only standards I can find in sections 11, 12, and 13 that apply to that are the ones in section 13 and about building orientation and type of building and that sort of thing. If anybody can take a look through all those sections and find some other standard that applies, we can discuss it, but I don't see any.
No, I went through it. I don't see any.
No, and the porch doesn't change the orientation of the existing building,
No,
not being put at an angle.
the
or
structure
cutting
that the
corners.
porch is going to be built on already exists. It was on the
Exactly.
approved plan.
Big
Well,
parking lot
radio-
placement. I don't see
Someone's
them.
radio is on. Can someone check their radio?
All
I'm
right.
having a hard time hearing Elizabeth.
Can I make a motion that on review of the requirements for this addition, screen porch with roof, meet the requirements on the ordinance?
Do we have a second?
I second his motion.
So all in favor of approving Scott's requested amendment to the commercial site plan?
Yes.
Elizabeth says yes. Bill,
Yes.
Dick,
Yes.
Sandy,
Yes.
Janice,
Yes,
and that's it. Frank, how do you vote?
I
Hello.
vote that, I vote that he can put his roof on.
So I'll come see you, Frank, tomorrow morning and get the permit.
No, not
Her.
Can
tomorrow.
Can you
No,
make it
not
5?
tomorrow. Yeah. Huh?
Can you make it 5:30 in the morning?
No, not really.
All right.
Anyway, I'll get to you before, yeah, by next Monday.
All right, whenever you're ready. When you're ready.
I have to take my wife to the doctor tomorrow.
Bring the scotch.
Don't
Oh,
have,
yeah.
don't have to get the virus shots.
Oh, yeah, I've got to do that too. Well, thank you very much.
Thank you, Scott.
thank you.
Sorry about the craziness.
Good luck.
Okay.
Okay, so I'm staying for the other half of the meeting as a voting member.
Okay. You're kicking Bill out, huh?
No, he can stay. More the merrier. Because we
Okay.
have maybe a voting member too, you know, just nail it down.
So, McLaughlin's. This is a fun one.
I thought it was a lobster pound.
Wrong building.
No, it's the smaller one.
Madam
The
Chair, are you ready for Mr. McLaughlin to come on screen?
Yes, thank you very much, David. I'm sorry.
That's okay. Momentarily, I'll send him your way.
Okay.
You're the best.
He really is, isn't he?
I lied.
In the interim here, is there any of this documentation that needs to be turned back into the town?
No,
All yours for your files. We know how much you want to keep it, hold on to it, treasure it,
Thanks a
review it
lot.
every week.
Recycle it.
Greetings, welcome. Are you on mute?
All set?
Nope, we can hear you.
Okay, great.
Okay,
All ready to go?
I think so. Are you ready to make a presentation? Is this going to be PowerPoint?
No, we're just gonna go with the documents we have. And anyway, my name is Rick McLaughlin. I own McLaughlin's Lobster Shack down at Lincolnville Beach, 12 McKay Road. And what I'd like to do is add on to an existing canopy. And the word canopy, we bounced around the last time that we did this. I'd like to add on to that a 30 by 30 extension. And Frank has told me that we need to mitigate the green space or the vegetated surface that would be lost in the project. Years ago, we had a taking by the DOT. They took some 1,400
Noise.
1,600.
Somebody is, I can't hear anything.
There's some
Hold
disturbance.
on, Mr. McLaughlin, if you'll hold on just a moment. All right, we have some issues with noise, paper shuffling or something. We just want to figure out.
There it is again.
I'm going to mute everybody. And
And a
when you wish to
video.
speak, you'll have to unmute yourself. I think that will resolve the issue.
Okay.
Rick, you're gonna have to unmute yourself to talk.
There we go. Okay, can everybody hear me? All right. Anyway, we want to mitigate that green space that's lost, that vegetated space, by applying section 12B4, and that's on page 4 of the land use ordinance. I've provided everybody with an excerpt from that, and I assume everybody's read it and is familiar with it. That's how I want to mitigate that project. And I'm undertaking this project because of the new requirements for table spacing and social distancing that we have to deal with according to the virus as it is right now, and going forward in the future. The DHS gives us our total people that we can have in the building. So we're licensed right now for 45 inside the building, and there's no licensing requirements for outside the building or in the tent area. But we're going to go from 45 to about 16 inside with the table spacing. And then we used to line up 30 or 40 people in line, and they were close together, ordering and then picking up on the other side. So we're going to have to dedicate some more of that inside space to accommodate that problem. And this is the reason that I'm asking for this project to be approved. I guess I can start taking questions now, or have somebody else unmute and take over.
I have a question for you, and maybe obviously some folks that have been around longer than I. I really don't understand B4, because aren't you a non-conforming establishment?
Well, section 12.4B, shall I read this?
You put a copy in our
Yeah.
file.
Anyway, it explains that after a taking by a governmental body, my lot has to be considered as before the taking. And that includes square footage, it includes coverage, everything else that's setbacks, lot area. And that makes me conforming as a government body considers permits and so forth. And it also adds green space to whatever calculation there is right now. My vegetated space would be increased by whatever was taken at the time. At the time, we had 14,600 some odd feet. Most of that area, I'm looking at the map right now, was vegetated. And I'm looking at my lot, my approved plan here. And most of that was vegetated. If you look at the map I gave you from the DOT, it's going to show that area as developed. In other words, they gave me that map and showed me in the red pencil square how much they were taking from me. But they also show what they have done there. Since they took that property, they put in the parking, they put in the seawall, and they put in the sidewalk. If you look closely at the parking area, you can see the vegetation, the old rose bushes superimposed in that picture. So I'm asking, yeah, go ahead.
Can I maybe just set the stage with a segue that might make it more understandable.
Sure.
A few years back, Rick wanted to add a 30 by 30 tent inside the building. The amount of impervious surface that was allowed had been exceeded. So the only way he could take and add that additional impervious surface, which is the stone underneath that tent, he had to take an area between the sewer system and his building, and he had to turn that back into grass. It's still there. So this is deja vu. This is a second attempt at it. This time he has no other area that he can mitigate. So what he's counting on is what the ordinance says, because his land that was pervious surface was taken by eminent domain. And so the numbers he's looking for 900 feet. And what did you say the amount was that was taken by eminent domain that was grass on there, Rick?
Well, there's 14,600 square feet was taken. And I can't make an absolute determination because it's already been developed on how much wasn't developed, but I'm hoping there's some people here that have go back a little while before this was done, and they can remember that strip was the grass area, and the place where the boat with the flowers in it is, and there's some information from on the town there. There's
Rick, you have a DOT map that showed what happened to your property when they went through. They took your property and turned it into parking spots. That was previously land. Yeah. So you're just asking for the board. This is another case of mitigation by default because it was taken away from you, and the ordinance is supporting what his proposition is. So that's what you have.
Yeah, that's more articulate.
Okay. The ordinance also, do we speak to the fact that you applied for a kitchen, then you came back and applied for the canopy you presently have is 600 square feet. Then you did your oyster bar where you wanted to put 2 canopies, and it was decided that 1 canopy per premise, your 600 square foot one that's attached to your building, was your 1 canopy. So you restructured your proposal to put a covered deck on your oyster bar. So now you're coming forward asking for another canopy, which would be a second canopy on the premises. So I'm questioning where that falls in the ordinances. I am also wondering about the square footage and the calculations, but I know that's you and Frank get all that figured out. My thought, just off the top of my head, is this sounds very necessary for you. And I do have a few little questions, but I'd like to know from Frank and maybe Jay, who talks to people from other towns, the towns that are allowing tents to go up and dining in the street, they're not changing their ordinances during this pandemic and the governor's mandates to make these things happen. So are they putting into place emergency provisions so that people like Mr. McLaughlin can go forward with something like this?
The difference here is you're dealing with shoreland zoning, which is state controlled.
And the governor's mandates allowing tents and dining situations for this indefinite temporary period of time has to be considered not valid in a shoreland zone?
That I can't answer.
Well, I'm not going for a temporary situation. I'm going for a permanent. And since it's an extension of the canopy, it would still be 1 canopy.
One 1,500 square foot canopy. Is that right?
That's right. Or a tent. I mean, I know we've got clogged up on the term canopy before. It's used several places in the ordinance, meaning different things in different places, and there's no definition in the ordinance.
Can I jump in here, Elizabeth?
Yes, please.
There's a couple of things going on here. One is that we're dealing with a structure, And the definition of structure in the back of the ordinance is pretty clear that this canopy is a shelter for peoples, therefore it qualifies as a structure. We have, I believe we have an approved commercial site plan that's had at least one, if not two amendments to it.
At
So
least
the
3.
structure or the canopy is going to come under an amendment to an approved commercial site plan. The area underneath that Frank is saying is going to be now vegetation that has to be mitigated because it's not going to be there because it's covered by a tent, is a separate issue. And all this is happening in the shoreland zone. So we're dealing with both the commercial site plan ordinance and we're dealing with the land use ordinance. The fact, I am sorry, Rick, but I am going to have to question 12B4. 12B4 covers taking by the state of land and making land that then becomes non-conforming, not non-conforming. And as an example of that would be if you owned a lot in the shoreland zone in the harbor district like you do, and it was 40,000 square feet, which is the minimum size of a lot in that district, and they took 2,000 feet of your 40,000 square feet, that makes you a non-conforming lot. 12B4 says they can't do that. The amount that they took away from that lot does not make it a non-conforming lot for use of permitting or enforcement or anything else. You still theoretically have a 40,000 square foot lot for purposes of the ordinance consideration. So 12B4 doesn't really come into this. The mitigation aspect of it, revegetation, does. And I think it can be considered here because you've lost that area. And let's just say that you're going to lose 600 or 900 square feet underneath that canopy. And the only place you had to mitigate that was the area up by Route 1 that was involved in the taking. Then I think that the planning board could probably defer that requirement because number one, the property was taken away from you and it was the only place you had to mitigate that area underneath your canopy. I don't have a problem with that at all. I think we could probably figure that out somehow. And what you're asking for as far as the structure is concerned would come underneath the commercial site plan ordinance, and that would be an amendment. And we'd have to take a look at the ordinance. The only things in the ordinance that apply or are applicable to the request, just as we did in the previous one with the screened-in porch. So I think the board needs to be aware of the fact that we're dealing with two different things here under two different ordinances, all of it which is occurring in the shoreline zone. So it complicates the issues a little bit. I don't see 12B4 actually entering it or not, but I think we can consider the mitigation aspect of what you've lost in consideration of what you want to improve. We can probably figure that one out too. Is that clear what we're actually up against there? We should look at the application,
Yeah.
which I think is asking for the canopy. That by definition in the ordinance is a structure. Frank is saying that that's going to cause vegetation to disappear underneath that canopy, and therefore that needs to be mitigated. If we say that Rick has no property left to mitigate because it was taken away from him by the state, then we can probably figure out a way to get around that some if we want to. I don't think anybody here is in disagreement that this is minimal and should have little effect. It's just a matter of doing it in such a way that we're, as best we can in compliance with the ordinances that really apply to this application.
I think that's
Does
exactly
the
what he's
state-
asking for, isn't it?
Does the
Yeah.
state need to approve this? Or does the state need to participate in this review to say
The
that?
state has what they have. They took it. It's now a parking lot. It used to be Rick's. If he had the ability to mitigate on the amendment that was put forth prior, and he did so on the other side of his building because some vegetation was lost on one side, he was able to mitigate that by planting grass on the other side, that's fine. If the board says there's now an application to do some more because he wants another 30-foot extension on a canopy, we can say, well, he has no room left to mitigate that because the state took that area away from him. So he would do it there if he had it, but he doesn't, so he can't.
Well, what you're saying, it would not be mitigated.
In effect, I'm saying that, yeah. But the board made a determination that due to the fact that the property was taken away from Rick by the state, it doesn't allow for the mitigation on the property the way the ordinance says, which has to be in the shore area of the loss. In other words, he's losing 900 square feet. He has to mitigate 900 square feet somewhere in that area. And we could say, well, he doesn't have any area left because the state took it away.
So the judgment call falls on the shoulders of the planning board.
Yes, you're right, Frank. I'm just offering it as a way that we could justify complying with this. I think we still have to look at the commercial site plan in terms of canopy, but this existing, if you correct me if I'm wrong, Rick, this existing canopy that's there now was part of an approved site plan.
Yes.
Okay, so we're asking for an amendment to an extension of something that already exists, was already approved on a commercial site plan. It's on record in the town office. And we can look at that in terms of the ordinance. Frank has a problem with the area underneath it now, the ground that's going to be involved in that because it's going to affect the vegetation. And we are obligated by the ordinance to say, well, that area that's lost has to be mitigated. But I think we're perfectly within our rights to interpret this situation, given the COVID and everything, is that the only place he had left to mitigate this was the area that was taken away from him by the state. So the board determines that we can say that the mitigation was required, but there's nowhere to mitigate it left. So we I don't know what the word is, but go around that somehow.
You may want to run this by the DEP.
Yeah.
That was my next question. Who's going to take exception to this?
I'll give a call.
Yeah.
Talk to the head person that makes the decisions and get his reading on it.
So the extenuating circumstances, the COVID situation, he has a perfect reason and it's well reasoned to do what he's asking to do.
Mm-hmm.
We have the ordinances to go by, but I think the ordinances are pretty much with us, except for a couple of items that maybe want to cleared up by the DEP. This is also, if I'm not mistaken, a seasonal addition. It's not a permanent structure. It's a seasonal, temporary structure, correct?
Yeah, but still the impact on the on the vegetation,
right?
Whether it's seasonal or not.
Yeah, that has to be considered, and the fact that it's an addition, I think almost the 30% rule might come into effect if is he within 25 feet of the high water mark?
It's 20% rule. Yeah. Yes, he is. He is.
He is. Okay, so he's less than 40 feet from the high water line.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's another problem. But there's a lot of extenuating circumstances with this piece of property, given its location, its history, the fact that it is an approved commercial site, the fact that it's been amended, the fact that the canopy that's there has existed and was approved. All those things I think are in our favor if we want to figure out a way to say, well, all he wants to do is extend it for 30 feet for COVID reasons, for a cover for the people who want to eat there. And that we can't mitigate the loss of the vegetation because the area that he has to mitigate it in was taken away by the state. It's a unique situation, but I don't know why we couldn't work with it.
Can't we reference this to a COVID situation so that he can do what he needs to do in order to keep his business afloat?
Well, he wants to make it permanent post-COVID. That has to come into the equation somewhere. He's not asking for it temporarily while this situation exists. I believe, you can correct me if I'm wrong, your intent is to keep the 30-foot extension even after the COVID thing settles down.
Right. When the state of emergency is gone and the special permissions go away, that's not going to change my situation at all, because we still have the table spacing. We still have the Department of Human Services that will be writing standards after this going forward. And we still have the fear and the attitude of people, and maybe rightly so, that they should be not lined up the way I used to have them lined up. And then, of course, you're going to have more flus later on.
So this is a permanent but seasonal.
Exactly.
Amendment, not a permanent, not temporary. And I have a question, I guess. I was looking at some of the old notes when you guys discussed the other canopy. I understand the vegetation, but the crushed stone is still pervious, isn't it?
Well, that's impervious. That's
Why-
definitely by state rule.
By state rule, it's impervious, even though the water can flow through it?
Impervious. It packs down.
Okay. And so, Mr. McLaughlin, I noticed on your drawing, you have a drain that seems to come, or drainage, right through the area you're hoping to expand the extra 900 square feet. Is that like French drain? Is that surface drainage? And how are you dealing with that?
I talked to Rick Osgood before, and as far as we know, the drainage comes surface until it meets the lawn, and then it's a 2 foot with crushed stone in it. And when you go down on this property, about a foot down, or in some areas 2 feet down at that point, it all becomes crushed stone naturally, like
Okay.
beach stuff. And somebody must have put something on top of it at one time, because there's little rocks, like about like that, right straight down. And of course, any rain that falls on that whole area is going to go into the ocean. What we have there is extensive seawall with silt fence already in place, so that any water that does run on the ground or anything, it's not going to pick up any silt and put it into the ocean. It's not going to cause any washout at all. The rest of the property, however, that doesn't have the seawall on it, there's been some erosion, rising tides, what have you, over the last few years. So really, the developed areas of that property are in better shape than the non-developed property, because it's just washing in.
So the question is, should we go ahead and review what we can review this evening? And fall back on state and whoever else needs to be involved in this thing?
Just a comment, Sandy. I think we could be wasting our time doing that if the state comes in and says, no, they're not going to consider allowing in the shoreland zone this expansion without the mitigation, which they'd have to determine. The suggestion I would make was that we list all the facts that we've talked about: the location of the property, the amount of taking, the previously approved commercial site, the history of the site, of the business that's been there for as long as anybody can remember, and the fact that a request is being made by the owner for COVID reasons to keep his business viable, is that this 900 square foot area be okayed for a crushed stone implementation and a covered canopy. And if see what their reactions to that are once they've been presented with all those facts. If they come back and say that we can make a special exception, or we can look at this and we think it's approve it, then the planning board could take it up and issue whatever permits are required. If we go through the whole process. Go ahead,
And if you
Frank.
don't get the approval of the state and they find it, then they could not only fine the town, they could also make him remove the 900 square feet that he's required.
Yep,
Yeah.
got it.
So we
I
wanna
do have it. I'm sorry. I do have an alternative plan if it makes any difference. This additional tent could go on the ocean side and meet up with the original canopy, and go down on the ocean side where there's no mitigation of soil
But-
needed.
But you'd be more you'd make it more non-conforming.
exactly.
Right.
You can't do that.
Closer to
That's
the
a,
ocean.
that's a definite.
Now,
You
if
can go
he-
away from the water, but you can't go closer to the water. That's shoreland zoning as opposed to commercial site plan. That's why I say we're dealing with two different things here. But I think if we go reviewing both ordinances under your application and then find out from the state that we couldn't do it, we're going to get the cart in front of the horse there. So I think it would be a good idea if Frank could compile the facts and what the planning board's thinking was on this and what the planning board's wishes were, and get an opinion from the DEP on it, that we are on solid footing when we go forward and review under our ordinances, looking to, approve this for you because of the situation with the COVID thing, we might get an okay there and we might be able to proceed.
Sounds good.
If he gets approval from the state, and yes, if the planning board agrees and all, why can't he just go to Frank and get a permit for his thing, since we have voted that Frank could take care of a lot of the shoreline stuff in a meeting
Because
2 years ago?
What he's
Well, it's
asking
all-
for is amendment to an approved commercial plan.
Right, I
okay.
can't make decisions on commercial plans or subdivision.
Okay. All right.
Yep.
Just curious.
I mean, they're overlapping problems here with the shoreline zoning plus the commercial site plan review ordinance. But we'll have to figure that out. But there's no point in us delving into that and jumping in with both feet if we can't get states okay to proceed.
I see.
But I think this
I'll
COVID
get
situation,
back to the board.
this COVID situation is an extending circumstance.
Janice, if you're trying to speak, you need to unmute.
I was just trying to make a motion that we table this until we hear from DEP regarding Rick's proposal, so we can move forward with trying to approve his request.
Thank you, Janice. Do we have a second?
Second,
And how do we vote? Sandy?
yes.
And Dick?
Needs,
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
Scott?
Yes.
Janice?
Yes,
And Elizabeth, yes. Well, that was short and sweet. Mr. McLaughlin, as long as you know, we're going to do our best for you. We're
Well,
rooting for you.
I appreciate it. I understand why we're going in this direction, and we'll be back at the next planning board meeting then.
Yes,
Okay,
thank you.
thank you.
thank you, thank you.
Right.
So we have minutes from December 30th that need to be amended and approved. Does anybody want to speak, or am I diving in?
Elizabeth, you didn't get February 24th?
I did not. Did anyone else?
Yes, I got them.
I
I
did.
got him.
Bummer. Were they in a packet or did they get emailed to you?
They were in
They were
an
in the
email.
packet.
They're in the packet.
And they're in the packet too.
Got it here.
Okay. Then I will let you guys do February 24th if you're comfortable with it. I have not looked at them.
I went on the February 24th. Am I unmuted? Yeah, I'm unmuted. On the February 24th minutes on line 106, the minutes reflect the fact that Vice Chair Delano made a motion that the board approves the application. This was in relation to the commercial site plan application for the Duck Trap Motel. I don't think that's correct wording because we weren't voting on approving the application.
I agree.
Say that again, Jay?
Well, it says Vice Chair Delano made a motion that the board approve the application. And if we, in Sally's letter, she said that we were not to sign the plan if it was just going to be for the screened in porch. And that's basically what we were talking about until the decision was made to start reviewing it as a commercial site. So we did not at that meeting approve the application. I think what we approved was the fact that we were going to review it as a commercial site plan, and that's what we started to do.
Well, this goes back to line number 38, which says an existing commercial site plan be reviewed. And I think we should add without approved site plan. It's a commercial site without an approved site plan, which I believe should be inserted.
Is everyone on board there?
I'm not.
Well, I can't vote because I wasn't at the meeting.
And I can't vote because it was my thing that they were.
Line 38 and 39 was taken from the exact agenda item. And so what's the problem with that?
I think it should reflect that it says without approved site plan, an existing commercial site without an existing site plan.
At line 38
Yeah,
on February 24th.
yep. 2021. It doesn't say that. It says existing commercial site plan. But somehow I think it should reflect that it did not have an approved site.
Oh, okay. I see what you're saying. That should be an existing commercial site, not site plan.
Correct.
Okay,
Okay.
just
All right. Right.
wipe out the plan
Right. That's
to
what
become the
Sandy,
commercial site plan of record. Okay, and your problem, Jay, is,
I think the motion that was made, he may have said approve the application, but that's really not reflective of what we did or the outcome.
okay,
On line 106.
on
so
line
you're
106.
you're just approved to review.
Right. And then we started that review, and that's what we finished tonight.
Right.
Yes, if it looks good to me.
So
Make a
someone
motion
needs a
to accept.
motion? Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry, Sandy.
Make a motion to accept.
Do we have a second on that?
I'll second it.
Thank you. And a vote. Sandy? Sandy?
Yes, I'm sorry.
Jay?
I'm not voting.
Oh, even on minutes, you can't vote?
I was a member. I was a member that night. So yeah, okay. I'll
Okay.
vote to accept.
Bill?
Yes.
Scott?
I can't vote because it was my thing.
Oh, do it anyway.
On that one.
Dick?
Yes.
And Janice wasn't here.
Yes, I can't vote.
Okay.
She was here, but she wasn't.
And I abstain because I haven't been able to look at them.
4. So that's 4. Okay.
And December 30th. Line 21. Chair created minutes of site walk at Harbor Ridge subdivision. That at Harbor Ridge subdivision road and can be deleted. We only had a site walk of 173 Mariners Drive.
Okay.
And other than that, there were just a couple of typos. You guys don't seem to usually correct those. Is that my understanding?
If they have an effect on the outcome or the wording or the understanding of it, yeah, they should be corrected.
No, these don't.
Okay.
Okay, very good. So that's the only thing I caught. Oh, wait, I did have something. I am so sorry, Nancy. Line 35, and I know this sounds egotistical of me, which is why I've been avoiding saying these things in the past, but line 35, CEO Terrio said having the full amount in escrow, et cetera, et cetera. That was actually me.
Okay.
And that was it. Thank you.
Motion to approve.
Second,
Andy, vote. Scott, vote.
yes,
Jay,
Yes.
Bill? Did he say yes? Is he muted?
He's muted.
Okay. Dick,
Yes.
Janice?
Can't vote, wasn't
Oh,
there.
you were not there. And Elizabeth says yes. For the amended version of the minutes of December 30th, 2020.
I have a question. I have a question for Nancy. You disappeared from the screen briefly. Did you get everything you needed while you were disappeared?
We stopped at, I don't think I got the motion that you accepted up until 13.4. That you approved.
You stepped away while we were still on duck trap?
It froze.
Oh,
It froze. I
okay.
almost didn't get back on again. I
Do
totally
you go
lost.
back and look at the videos when you need to?
I haven't before.
When did it come back on, Nancy?
Hold on. Okay. I got to 13.4. We were doing C1 expressed and A through D, and that's what I didn't get. You were grouping 13.4 A through D. And then I picked up, Jay was talking about the amendment, the application. Janice said about the standard application, 13.5 applies and 13.1 for site conditions.
Yeah, the discussion on 13.5 was that it was on canopies and didn't apply.
Right.
And then we
Okay.
took 13.6, 13.7, 13.8, and 13.9 and bunched those up and said none of them were applicable to the application.
Okay, that's where I
And
lost.
that was the end of the review on the standards.
Okay, that's where I lost you and gained it back after that.
Welcome.
Thank you. Got a lot.
Make a motion to adjourn unless we have something else.
I just want to remind everyone about our workshop on the 24th with the town attorney. That will be by Zoom. And so David will send out little links for us all. If you don't have your link within a few days prior to the meeting, please let David know. I'm hoping that that evening we might also touch on just some housekeeping things and ideas of how we might all like to see our meetings progress in a more smooth and professional manner. And I think Sally will be able to help us out a lot in a lot of the other questions we have just about ordinances and practice
Do you
in general.
need me there?
I don't think so, Jay.
No.
Do you usually? No.
You're
Okay.
not going to be doing votes and
No.
motions or anything like
It's
that?
No,
not
it's
an
just
official
all
meeting of the
learning.
planning board, it's a workshop.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Okay. And so we will have, we will be meeting on the 31st as a planning board. We assume that Mr. McLaughlin will be joining us again if we've heard from the DEP. And we do have, as you may or may not all know, we are going to be rehearing Dr. Arman's application for the gun shop. So whether or not that's going to be ready for our 31st meeting, I don't know yet. I haven't heard. But the appeals board has sent it back to us. So any questions? And we'll be able to talk with Sally about some of that prior to meeting Dr. Arman again. So
Well, the question is going to become why, so
why? Can I answer that tonight?
no.
Okay.
Why not?
I know why.
No, we can't discuss it if it's going to be reheard, so.
Yeah. And this, I don't even know if we're considered still public at this moment. So,
Was
all
in the
right, guys, we're
newspaper?
good. I did not hear a motion to adjourn.
That's because you
Andy
weren't
did.
listening. I made it.
Can anyone second it?
Second the motion.
And all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay.
Good night,
night.
everyone. Thank you very
Thank you.
much.
Thank you very
Thank-
much.